They didn't just reject me, they tried to erase me. The verdict was delivered at dawn. Leave before nightfall. With those 4 words, my mate didn't just break a vow. He stripped me of my mark, my protection, and my very identity. As I crossed the boundary stones into the frozen wasteland, the pack stood in silent indifference, watching the snow swallow my scent. They expected me to lay down and die in the cold, a discarded Omega who was no longer their problem. But the forest didn't feel like a grave. It felt like a throne room. Just as the cold began to claim my heartbeat, the shadows shifted. The rogue king, the man who answers to no alpha and bends to no fate, didn't find a victim shivering in the snow. He found a spark that refused to go out. He didn't offer me a rescue. He offered me a choice. If you've ever been cast out by the people who are supposed to protect you, stay with me, because the mate who feared my worth is about to realize his mistake. I wasn't being exiled, I was being unleashed. And the rogue king doesn't just walk through the storm, he commands it. If this moment hits home, leave a comment and subscribe to follow what happens when the rogue king intervenes. Among the northern packs, exile was considered mercy, a clean removal, a quiet solution. Wolves who were cast out were spoken of briefly, then forgotten, their names dissolving into cautionary tales meant to preserve obedience and order. She had never believed she would become one of them. Her mate had once promised her the bond was unbreakable, that the moon did not make mistakes, that love and duty could coexist if one tried hard enough. But when pressure mounted, when alliances demanded sacrifice, it was easier to sever a life than to challenge tradition. So she was cast out. Not because she was weak, but because she stood in the way of something more convenient. As she lay half-conscious in the snow, blood staining white ground crimson, the bond between her and the pack did not sever the way it was supposed to. Instead, it went silent, contained, compressed, as if something older and more dangerous had folded it inward. The rogue king felt it instantly. He ruled beyond pack borders, beyond councils and laws that bent destiny into submission. They called him ungovernable, a disruptor, a threat to balance. He answered to none of it. When he knelt beside her broken form, the land itself seemed to acknowledge him, shadows parting, wind easing as if waiting for instruction. He did not claim her, he did not touch her mark, he simply made a choice to pull her back from the edge fate had pushed her toward. Because some bonds were not meant to be obeyed, some destinies were not meant to be accepted, and some wolves were cast out only so the world could witness what happened when they were finally seen. Cold was the first thing she felt when consciousness clawed its way back. Not the dull ache of exhaustion, but a sharp, biting chill that cut through skin and bone, seeping into places warmth used to live. Snow clung to her lashes, half melted, half frozen, blurring the world into white and shadow. Each breath burned as it entered her lungs. She shouldn't have been breathing at all. Her body lay half buried where she had fallen, one arm twisted beneath her, fingers numb and unresponsive. Blood had soaked into the snow beneath her ribs, the metallic scent faint but unmistakable. Her wolf stirred weakly, wounded and furious, pressed so deep inside her chest it felt like it might never surface again. Exile was not meant to be survived. That had been the point. The boundary stones loomed several paces behind her now, barely visible through the falling snow. Crossing them had stripped away the last threads of pack protection, leaving her exposed to the wilderness and whatever hunted within it, or ruled it. Footsteps crunched softly nearby. Her instincts flared too late. She tried to push herself upright, muscles screaming in protest, but strength deserted her almost immediately. A growl tore from her throat, raw, defensive, defiant even now. The sound stopped mid-breath. The forest had gone unnaturally still, not frozen. Listening. A shadow detached itself from the trees, moving with unhurried certainty. He did not rush, did not loom. He simply approached, presence settling over the clearing like an unspoken truth. The rogue king. Even half delirious, she recognized him, not by sight alone, but by the way the world adjusted around him. Snowfall thinned, wind stilled. The air felt heavier, grounded by something vast and restrained. He crouched beside her, dark cloak brushing the snow, eyes scanning her injuries with unsettling calm. There was no shock in his expression, no pity, only assessment. Still breathing, he said quietly. Her vision swam. Don't, she rasped. He tilted his head slightly. Don't what? Don't save me, she whispered. They'll say you stole me. A flicker of something unreadable crossed his eyes. They already decided your story, he replied. Why should I honor their version? She laughed weakly, the sound breaking into a cough that sent pain lancing through her side. You don't know what you're involving yourself in. I know exactly what they did, he said. His gaze dropped to the faint, fractured mark at her collarbone, the remnants of a bond that had been forcibly suppressed rather than cleanly severed. Power stirred in response to his attention, a low resonance humming beneath her skin. The rogue king's eyes darkened. So, he murmured, they didn't just cast you out. Her breath caught. What does that matter? It matters, he said, voice lowering, because bonds that are buried instead of broken don't disappear. Her wolf growled faintly, something like warning threading through her haze. She struggled again, refusing to lie helpless at anyone's feet, especially his. If you take me, she said through clenched teeth, they'll hunt you. His gaze lifted to meet hers, steady and unflinching. Let them try. The certainty in his voice stole what little air remained in her lungs. He rose smoothly, scooping her up as if she weighed nothing. Heat bled through his cloak, wrapping around her in sharp contrast to the cold gnawing at her bones. Her instincts screamed at the closeness, at the power coiled tightly beneath his control, but her body betrayed her, sagging against his chest. She pressed her forehead weakly into the hard line of his collarbone, breath hitching. Why? She whispered. He paused just long enough for her to feel it, the moment where choice was acknowledged. Because fate doesn't get to discard what it fails to understand, he said, and neither does your mate. The forest parted as he carried her deeper into the dark, away from boundary stones and pack law and the life that had been stripped from her at dawn. Behind them, snow erased her trail completely. Ahead, the rogue king did not slow. She drifted in and out of awareness as the rogue king carried her through the forest. Heat and cold blurred together, the sharp sting of frostbite softened by the steady warmth radiating from him. Each step he took was measured, unhurried, as if the wilderness itself had already conceded passage. Snow no longer clung to her lashes, wind no longer bit at her skin. Her wolf stirred again, uneasy, wary, but no longer curled in on itself. It sensed danger, yes, but also structure. A presence that did not seek to dominate it into submission, only to exist beside it. She woke fully when pain finally caught up with her. A sharp breath tore from her throat as her body jolted, muscles spasming in protest. Her eyes flew open to firelight and stone, shadows leaping across the walls of a cavern carved deep into the mountainside. She tried to sit up. A firm hand pressed her shoulder back down. Not rough, not gentle, certain. "Don't," the rogue king said. "You'll tear what's trying to heal." She hissed through her teeth, frustration and pride flaring. "I don't need. You're half frozen and bleeding internally." He cut in calmly. "You do." The blunt honesty stunned her into stillness. She lay back, chest rising and falling as she took in her surroundings. The cavern was dry, warded, warmed by runes etched directly into stone. Not decorative, functional, ancient. This place had been prepared for survival, not comfort. "You brought me to your territory," she said quietly. "I brought you somewhere safe," he corrected. "Those are not always the same thing." She turned her head to look at him properly. Up close, the rogue king was different. Scarred, yes, but not worn down by them. His dominance was tightly leashed, power folded inward like a blade sheathed until needed. No sigils marked him. No pack colors claimed him. "You don't fear them," she observed. "No," he agreed. "Why?" He studied her for a long moment before answering. "Because fear is what keeps packs obedient." Her throat tightened. "And you?" "I keep myself honest." The words lodged deep. She shifted, wincing as pain flared again. He noticed instantly, rising to retrieve a small vial from a stone shelf nearby. The scent hit her senses, even before he uncorked it. Bitter herbs, crushed pine resin, something metallic and sharp. "What is that?" she asked warily. "Something that will hurt before it helps," he replied. She snorted weakly. "Of course it will." He administered the salve with efficient care, fingers warm and steady as they pressed against bruised ribs and torn skin. Power thrummed faintly beneath his touch, not invasive, not probing, but aware. Her wolf bristled at first, then settled. That startled her. "You're not trying to suppress me," she said. His gaze flicked up briefly. "Why would I?" "Most alphas would," she replied. "Especially after what I am now." He paused. "And what do you think that is?" She hesitated. "A liability." Something sharp crossed his face, not anger, but rejection of the idea itself. "You're an inconvenience to people who rely on control," he said. "That's not the same thing." She swallowed. "They'll come." "Yes," he said simply. "And when they do?" He met her gaze, expression unreadable. "Then they'll learn why I never bend." Silence stretched between them, heavy with things unspoken. She broke it softly. Why save me? He did not answer immediately. Instead, he finished binding her wounds, movements precise, practiced. Only when he was done did he straighten, resting his hands on his knees as he regarded her. Because they cast you out to preserve their order, he said. And I've learned that order built on sacrifice always rots. Her chest ached, not with pain this time, but something closer to recognition. And the bond? She asked. It hasn't released me. No, he agreed. It's dormant. That's not normal. No, he said again. It's dangerous. Her breath caught. To whom? His eyes darkened. To anyone who thinks they still own you. A shiver ran through her, not fear, but something like anticipation. Outside the cavern, the wind howled as night deepened. Somewhere beyond the mountains, the pack would be gathering, stories already forming, blame being assigned. Here, beneath stone and rune, and a sovereignty that answered to no counsel, she felt something unfamiliar settle into her bones. Not safety, possibility. The rogue king rose, turning away to tend the fire. Rest, he said. By morning, they'll have chosen how far they're willing to go. And you? She asked quietly. He glanced back at her over his shoulder. I already have. She dreamed of fire and snow, of standing at the edge of the pack circle, while voices blurred together, indistinct and accusing. Of her mate's face turned away, not in hatred but in dismissal, and beneath it all a steady presence, unmoving, watching from the dark as the world tried and failed to erase her. She woke with a sharp inhale, heart racing, the echo of the dream still clinging to her skin. Firelight flickered low in the cavern. Dawn had not yet broken, but the night felt thinner, stretched taut, as if something waited on the other side of it. The rogue king stood near the mouth of the cave, back to her, gaze fixed on the mountain pass beyond. He hadn't heard her wake, not because he was inattentive, but because he was listening to something farther away. They're closer, she said quietly. He did not turn. Yes. How many? Enough to feel confident, he replied. Not enough to feel prepared. She pushed herself up slowly, ignoring the protest of bruised ribs. He was beside her instantly, steadying her without comment, then withdrawing the moment she found her balance. You shouldn't be standing, he said. I won't be lying down when they arrive, she answered. Something like approval flickered through his expression. Outside, a distant howl rose, sharp, commanding, meant to rally and intimidate. It carried pack authority, layered with anger and entitlement. Her mate. The sound hit her chest hard, the dormant bond stirring in response, not pulling her forward, but testing its limits. She closed her eyes briefly, breathing through it. They think they're coming to retrieve property, she said. Yes, the rogue king replied. And to make an example. Her jaw tightened. Of you. Of you, he corrected. I've been an example long enough. She looked at him then. Really looked. At the scars, tracing his hands, the weight he carried with practiced ease, the discipline in every movement. You've done this before, she said. Yes. And survived. I never depended on survival, he replied. I depended on inevitability. The words sent a shiver through her. The howls grew closer, joined by the crunch of boots on snow and the metallic scent of weapons carried on the wind. The pack was advancing openly now, confident in numbers and authority. "What happens when they get here?" she asked. He met her gaze, expression unyielding. "They will demand you. And you'll refuse." "Yes." Her pulse spiked. "They won't stop there." "No," he agreed. "They'll escalate." She swallowed. "Then maybe I should go to them." The rogue king stilled. "For what purpose?" he asked carefully. "To end this before blood is spilled," she said. "They want me, not you. If I walk out..." "You walk back into a cage," he cut in sharply. The intensity of his response startled her. "They won't negotiate," he continued. "They'll take your compliance as validation. And when the bond resurfaces, and it will, they'll punish you for defying them first." Her chest tightened. "You don't know that." "I do," he said, "because I've watched it happen." Silence stretched, heavy with the weight of experience. She exhaled slowly. "Then what do we do?" His gaze shifted briefly to the cavern walls, to the runes etched deep into stone. "We change the terms." He stepped toward the center of the cavern, motioning for her to follow. When she hesitated, he waited, giving her the space to choose. She joined him. The runes beneath her feet warmed instantly, responding to her presence with a low hum that vibrated through her bones. Power stirred, not flaring, not wild, but aware. "What is this place?" she asked. "A threshold," he replied, "built for those who stand between pack law and moon law." Her breath caught. "You're saying I can't go back." "I'm saying you don't have to," he said. "Not as you were." Outside, voices carried now, clear, commanding, demanding. The pack was close enough that she could smell them, could feel their expectations pressing against the boundary of the rogue king's territory. Her mate's voice rose above the rest. "Send her out," he called. "This doesn't concern you." The rogue king's lips curved faintly. "They always say that." Her heart hammered. "If I stand with you, this becomes war." "If you don't," he replied quietly, "it becomes erasure." The truth of it settled into her bones. She stepped fully into the center of the runes. The cavern responded immediately. Light flared along the stone walls, ancient symbols igniting as if awakened from long sleep. Power surged, not into her, but around her, forming a steady field that pressed back against the pack's encroaching dominance. Her wolf surged forward at last, not wounded, not hiding, but present. The rogue king watched her with focused intensity. "This is where you decide," he said. "Not who protects you, but who you are when protection is offered." Her mate's footsteps echoed outside the cavern now, close enough to feel. She lifted her chin, pain and fear burning away into something sharper. "I was cast out," she said steadily. "I won't crawl back." The runes flared brighter. Outside, the pack faltered. And for the first time since exile, the world shifted not against her, but with her. The first of them reached the cavern mouth just as the runes completed their ignition. Pack wolves flooded the narrow approach in disciplined formation, guards first, elders behind, dominance layered thick and sharp in the air. Torches flared as they stepped into the firelight, their expressions hardening when they saw her standing upright at the center of the runic circle. Alive, unbowed, unreturned. Her mate emerged last. He looked nothing like the man who had ordered her exile at dawn. The certainty was gone from his posture, replaced by tight control stretched thin by anger and disbelief. His gaze locked onto her instantly, relief flashing for a fraction of a second before it curdled into fury. "There you are," he said. "Step away from him." "Now!" She did not move. The Rogue King stood at her side, not in front of her, not shielding her, but close enough that the space between them felt intentional. The cavern answered his presence with a subtle shift, stone humming faintly underfoot. "This is pack territory," her mate continued, eyes never leaving her. "You have no authority here." The Rogue King tilted his head slightly. "Then it's strange how the land disagrees." Murmurs rippled through the pack as several wolves shifted uneasily, instincts prickling at the pressure radiating from the runes. This place did not bend to rank. It measured. An elder stepped forward, staff tapping sharply against stone. "You're harboring an exile," he said. "That violates interpack law." "She was not exiled," the Rogue King replied calmly. "She was discarded." The distinction hit like a crack of thunder. Her mate snarled. "She was removed for the good of the pack." "For convenience," she corrected quietly. Every head turned toward her. She felt the weight of their attention. The old instinct to shrink pressing at the edges of her mind, and felt it fail to take hold. The runes thrummed steadily beneath her feet, grounding her presence. "You forfeited your right to speak," her mate snapped. "You crossed the boundary." "I was pushed," she said. "There's a difference." "You're unstable," he said, desperation bleeding into his dominance. "You don't know what you're doing." The Rogue King's voice cut in, low and precise. "Lower your dominance." The command was not shouted. It did not need to be. Her mate froze, as if the words had struck him physically. His dominance wavered, scent faltering as the cavern rejected the pressure he tried to assert. "You don't get to," he began. "I do," the Rogue King said evenly. "Because you're standing on ground that answers to something older than you." The elder's staff struck stone again. "This is madness. You're provoking conflict." "No," the Rogue King replied. "You brought it with you." Her mate took a step forward, eyes burning. "Come back," he said to her, voice dropping into the tone he once used to command loyalty. "This ends if you walk out now." The bond stirred faintly at the sound, not pulling her forward, not anchoring her back. Just waiting. She closed her eyes briefly, breathing through it. Then she shook her head. "I won't go back to being tolerated," she said. "Or traded. Or erased when I stop being useful." His face twisted. "You think standing with him makes you powerful?" She met his gaze steadily. "No, I think standing alone broke me. This..." She gestured subtly to the runes, to the land beneath her feet, to the Rogue King's unwavering presence, "is what healing looks like." A ripple of unease passed through the pack. Several wolves shifted their weight, uncertainty creeping into their expressions. The elder's voice sharpened. "If you don't return her now, we will take her." The Rogue King's eyes darkened, not with rage, but with finality. "You can try." The air thickened instantly, not explosive, inevitable. The runes flared brighter, ancient symbols rising in shimmering arcs that formed a barrier at the cavern mouth. Wolves stumbled back, startled as their dominance slid off the field like water on stone. Her mate staggered, shock cracking through his fury. "What did you do to her?" The rogue king answered without looking at him. "I gave her a place to stand." She felt it then. Power not rushing into her, but flowing through her, aligning her heartbeat with the land itself. Her wolf lifted its head fully, no longer wounded, no longer hiding. Her mate stared, disbelief turning to fear. "You're tearing the pack apart." She stepped forward, stopping just short of the barrier. "No," she said calmly. "I'm showing it the cost of pretending I never mattered." The cavern fell silent. Outside, snow continued to fall, soft and relentless, burying the path she had once been forced to walk alone. Inside, fate shifted, no longer bending her spine, but waiting to see what she would do next. Silence pressed hard against the cavern walls, heavy with expectation. The pack stood frozen at the threshold, dominance blunted, instincts scrambling for a hierarchy that no longer applied. Torches flickered uncertainly as the runic barrier pulsed, steady, unyielding, ancient. Her mate was the first to move. He straightened slowly, jaw tight, eyes burning, not with command now, but with something far more dangerous: loss of control. "You think hiding behind old magic gives you authority?" he demanded. "You were nothing before the bond. You don't get to rewrite that." The words struck deep, but they no longer stuck. She felt them slide off her, rejected by the same inner steadiness that now anchored her spine. The power beneath her feet did not flare in anger. It held. "I was nothing to you," she said quietly. "That doesn't mean I was nothing." A murmur rippled through the pack. Not defiance, doubt. An elder stepped forward again, staff raised but voice less certain than before. "This has gone far enough," he said. "Release her to us, Rogue King. You've made your point." The Rogue King did not move. "You're confusing inconvenience with authority." Her mate snarled, desperation bleeding through his anger. "She belongs to us, to the pack." The dormant bond reacted sharply at the word belongs, not pulling, not aching, but resisting. Pressure surged through her chest, then steadied, reshaping itself around choice instead of obligation. She exhaled slowly. "I don't belong to anyone," she said. "That's what you never understood." Her mate's face contorted. "You're throwing away everything we built." "We didn't build it together," she replied. "You built it over me." The truth landed with brutal clarity. The Rogue King watched her closely now, not intervening, not shielding, allowing the moment to be hers. His restraint was deliberate, respectful. "You can still end this," her mate said hoarsely. "Come back. I'll speak to the council. We'll find a place for you." A place. The old her might have reached for that offer, might have twisted herself smaller to fit it. She felt that memory pass through her, like a shadow, and then fade. "I don't want a place you can take away," she said. "I want ground that doesn't move when I stand on it." The runes responded instantly, light intensifying, as if in agreement. A young guard at the edge of the group shifted uneasily, eyes wide. "Alpha, the land," he began. "I know," her mate snapped, then stopped abruptly as his dominance faltered again. rejected by the barrier and the presence standing beside her. The elder lowered his staff slowly. "This ground answers to moon law," he said reluctantly. "Not ours." Her mate stared at him. "You can't be serious?" "We can't force this," the elder replied. "Not without consequence." Fear crept into her mate's expression, not for the first time tonight, but deeper now, edged with realization. "This isn't over," he said, voice raw. "If you stay with him, you make yourself an enemy of every pack that values order." She held his gaze, sadness threading through her steadiness. Then maybe order needs to change. The bond pulsed once, decisive, final. Her mate gasped, dropping to one knee as the last thread of control snapped free, not severed violently, released. The silence that followed was vast and unmistakable. Several wolves stepped back instinctively. The rogue king spoke then, his voice carrying calmly through the cavern. "You came to retrieve something you thought you owned," he said. "You leave, knowing you never did." The elder bowed his head slightly, not in submission, but acknowledgement. "We will withdraw," he said. "For now." "For good," the rogue king corrected. The elder did not argue. One by one, the pack retreated from the cavern mouth, torches lowering, voices hushed. Her mate lingered last, looking at her with something like grief stripped bare of pride. "I never meant to destroy you," he said quietly. She nodded once. "Intent doesn't erase impact." He turned away without another word. As the final footsteps faded into the snow, the runic barrier dimmed, settling back into stone. The cavern exhaled. She felt it then, not triumph, not victory, but relief so deep it nearly brought her to her knees. The rogue king turned to her. "You held," he said simply. She looked up at him, pulse steady, wolf calm and present. "You didn't bend." A corner of his mouth curved. "I never do." The cavern warmed, fire crackling softly, the storm outside easing as if the mountain itself had accepted the outcome. Fate had come for her. And for the first time, it had been turned away. The cavern felt different once the pack withdrew. Not empty, but claimed in a way that had nothing to do with ownership. The runes dimmed to a low, steady glow, their purpose fulfilled for now, while the fire settled into a quiet rhythm that matched her breathing. She realized then how tightly she'd been holding herself together. Her knees gave out without warning. The rogue king was there instantly, not catching her like a rescuer, not pulling her close, but bracing her weight until she could steady herself again. His touch was firm, grounding, deliberately restrained. "You don't have to stand anymore," he said quietly. She let out a shaky breath. "If I sit down, I might not get back up." "That's allowed," he replied. She laughed softly, the sound edged with exhaustion and disbelief, then lowered herself onto the stone bench near the fire. Heat soaked into her bones, chasing away the last of the cold that exile had carved into her body. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Outside, the wind shifted, carrying away the last traces of pack scent. The mountain seemed to settle around them, ancient and unconcerned with hierarchy or consequence. "They'll regroup," she said eventually. "They won't forget this." "No," he agreed. "They'll rewrite the story until it hurts less." She stared into the fire. They'll call me unstable, dangerous, corrupted. He watched her steadily. And will any of that be true? She considered the question carefully. I don't feel corrupted. No, he said. You feel unaligned, because you've been standing crooked for years. The words struck deep. She pressed a hand to her chest, where the dormant bond rested, not aching now, not silent either, but resolved. It no longer pulled her backward. It no longer asked permission. What am I now? She asked quietly. He did not answer immediately. Instead, he rose and crossed to the far wall, brushing his palm against a section of stone she hadn't noticed before. The wall shifted soundlessly, revealing a shallow alcove etched with symbols far older than the pack runes she'd grown up around. This place, he said, was built for those who refused to choose between submission and exile. She stood slowly, drawn to the alcove despite herself. The air there felt different, thicker, resonant, alive with stored intent. Wolves like you, she said. Wolves who were inconvenient, he replied, who didn't fit cleanly into command or obedience. Her fingers hovered over the symbols, warmth blooming under her skin before she even touched them. And you? I was born into this, he said. Raised beyond pack borders, so I would never confuse control with strength. She turned to him, studying his face in the firelight. That's why you never tried to claim me. His gaze held hers. Because you were never meant to be rescued. The truth of it sent a shiver through her. Not fear, not longing, but recognition. What happens now? She asked. Now, he said. You decide whether this is a refuge or a beginning. The weight of the choice settled slowly. I don't want to hide, she said, but I don't want to replace one cage with another. Then don't, he replied. Stand sovereign, beside me if you choose, but never beneath. Her wolf stirred at the word beside, something calm and fierce rising to meet it. Not submission, alignment. She stepped into the alcove. The symbols flared softly, responding not with spectacle, but with acceptance. Power brushed her senses, not claiming, not binding, but recognizing something that had always been present. A mark bloomed at her wrist, intricate and luminous, unlike any pack sigil. It pulsed once, then settled into her skin as if it had always belonged there. Her breath caught. What is this? A witness, he said. Not a chain. She turned her wrist, watching the light fade into something steady and enduring. They'll fear it. Yes, he agreed. And they should. Not because it's dangerous, but because it can't be owned. Silence stretched again, comfortable this time. She met his gaze. You're offering me more than shelter. I'm offering you truth, he said. What you do with it is yours alone. She nodded slowly. Outside, the storm finally broke, clouds thinning as moonlight filtered through the mountain pass. The cavern brightened subtly, as if acknowledging a shift that could not be undone. She drew a deep breath. I won't go back, she said. Not as I was. He inclined his head. Then you'll walk forward. Not alone, she added. A faint smile touched his lips, rare, restrained, never alone. The fire crackled softly, the mountains settling into stillness around them. Exile had ended. What came next would not be dictated by fate or pack law, but by choice. Morning arrived without ceremony. Light filtered into the cavern in thin, pale strands, touching stone and rune with quiet insistence. The fire had burned low, reduced to embers that pulsed softly, mirroring the steady rhythm of her breath as she stood at the cavern's mouth and looked out over the mountain pass. The world beyond felt different. Not gentler, not safer, but open in a way it had never been before. Behind her, the rogue king moved without sound, presence settling beside her like a constant she no longer had to brace against. He did not crowd her. He did not direct her gaze. He simply stood, as he always had, unbent, unyielding, and yet somehow leaving room for her to exist fully. "They'll spread the story by noon," she said quietly. "By sunset, it won't resemble the truth." He nodded. Truth rarely survives first contact with fear. She smiled faintly. "Then let them be afraid." The words felt strange and powerful on her tongue. She turned from the pass and faced him fully, for the first time since the night had broken open everything she thought she understood. In the clear light of morning, his scars were more visible, his strength less shadowed and more deliberate. "You didn't rescue me," she said. "No," he agreed. "You didn't claim me." "No. You didn't even promise to protect me." He met her gaze steadily. Because protection offered as obligation becomes possession. Her wolf stirred in approval, calm and certain. "I was cast out because I was inconvenient," she said. "Because I didn't fit the shape they needed me to." "And now?" he asked. She straightened, feeling the ground beneath her feet respond. Not with magic, not with spectacle, but with presence. "Now I don't need to fit at all." Silence settled between them. Not empty, not expectant. Complete. From the lower slopes, movement caught her eye. Wolves, not a pack, not a patrol, moving carefully, respectfully. A handful of individuals who had turned back before reaching the cavern the night before. Ones who had watched, hesitated, and then chosen not to follow fear. "They came back," she murmured. "They will," he said. "Not to kneel, to ask." Her chest tightened, not with dread, but responsibility. "I won't rule them," she said immediately. "I wouldn't follow you if you did," he replied. She exhaled, tension easing. "Good, because I won't hide either." The mark at her wrist pulsed softly, answering the truth in her words, not demanding attention, simply acknowledging. She stepped forward, out of the cavern and into the morning air. Cold kissed her skin, sharp and clean, grounding her fully in the present. The mountains stretched wide before her, vast and indifferent and full of paths no one had charted for her. The rogue king followed, not behind her, not ahead of her, beside. From below, the waiting wolves lifted their heads, sensing the shift. No dominance surged, no submission answered, only recognition, tentative, cautious, real. She met their gazes without lowering her own. "I won't replace one hierarchy with another," she said clearly. "I won't promise safety without truth, and I won't take responsibility for obedience." A pause. Then one of them, a young wolf with eyes too old for her face, stepped forward. Then what do you offer? She considered the question carefully. Choice, she said, and ground that doesn't disappear beneath you when you stand on it. The words rippled outward, settling into the air like a challenge and an invitation both. The rogue king watched her, something fierce and approving burning quietly in his gaze. They'll try to bend this, he said softly. They always do. She nodded. Let them try. She turned her face toward the rising sun, feeling its warmth touch her skin, feeling the truth of herself settle fully into place. She had been cast out, but she had not been erased. She had not been rescued. She had chosen, and the rogue king, who never bent to fate, had not claimed her. He had walked beside her long enough for her to claim herself. Cast out by the mate who feared her worth, she did not survive because she was saved. She rose because the rogue king who never bent to fate stood beside her long enough for her to choose herself.